Hey guys, we are starting a new series at High Point Land Company. We get a lot of questions about owning land, buying land, financing it, working on the land, how what it's like to own it, what it's like to do projects on it, and we thought it'd be really cool to put together a series on the topic of land ownership and what it's like to own private land and be your own boss on your property and not have to ask permission for anything. So I'm here with Bill Winke today, and Bill, what have you been up to lately?
Well, most recently, haven't been doing a whole lot.
Good for you.
Yeah, no. So I had that long run with Midwest Whitetail. I still write for some of the magazines that I've written for years, but I'm just kind of in that holding stage, if you want to call it, where I'm going to get back into producing some type of media again. I haven't really settled on the exact format for that, but obviously I'm going to work with you here on this series and excited about that, but eventually I'll get back into full-time production.
Yeah.
But it's just been kind of nice to catch my breath.
Yeah, absolutely. Give us an update on did you find a farm and where are you at and how did that all turn out?
So one of the things that in our life transition, not only did I get away from Midwest Whitetail, but we sold the farm that I'd owned for 18 years.
Yep.
And it took a long time to put that together. And you and I have talked about that, all the transactions that took place of, really taking 125 acres and growing it into almost 1,000 acres. And the process of that, well, it was a hard, I would say, life change to sell that. But my whole thought was, I'm going to sell that and I'm going to replace it with land up in Northeast Iowa, which is closer to where my family is, where I grew up.
Where you grew up, yeah.
Yeah, so I'd be able to see mom and dad more. Because if we'd have kept the one that we owned in southern Iowa that we had built up, then I'd be spending all my time there and I'd never see mom and dad.
Yeah.
So that was the motivation. It's just been a lot harder finding land than what I expected. There's just not a lot for sale. But I did find a couple of farms. In fact, you probably know pretty well which couple of farms I bought. But no, I found a listing that Jacob had with High Point and hurried up and took a look at that one. And Jacob and I worked through that process. And during that time, I found another one that was nearby that one of your agents had for sale. So I was able to use the High Point Realty on 2 different land purchases, which got me a lot closer to my dream. I'm not going to probably be able to easily replace that much land in this part of the country, but now I've got at least a place to start.
Yep. How was your, looking at it from a real estate perspective, what was your experience with High Point Land Company compared to, you've bought a lot of farms, owned a lot of land, dealt with a lot of real estate agents. What was your experience with High Point? Did you see a difference there? Was the communication good? How was that experience as a landowner, land buyer? Yeah,
I think the main thing is, well, obviously it's got to be a good tract, so you've got to have good listings, and that's the starting point. It doesn't do any good if you're a really great agent if you got bad properties that you're trying to sell. So you're in a good area and you've got great listings, but I think the integrity of the process was really good, and I say that because you do run into the odd situation where maybe a realtor is just a salesman, whereas more of like a partner in the process of buying, that kind of a agent to client, if you want to call it that. Granted, I was the buyer and not the seller, but I still felt like you represented me well, and that integrity I think is important because you're spending a lot of money on this stuff. It's not like you're buying a used car, and you don't want a used car salesman selling you 150 acres of land.
Right.
It'd be different if it was $300 an acre, but it's not $300 an acre anymore.
Not anymore.
No. So it's a huge investment. So there can't be a lot of funny business or BS. It's got to be very transparent. The relationship has to be very clean. You have to really know what you're getting into, and if you can't trust the agent, like you feel like they're just selling me something, I think that's a bad feeling. So I never got that working with you guys, and that's important from the standpoint of being a buyer. It's just that sense of confidence in the motives, let's say, of the agent.
Yeah, that's really important for us at High Point to make sure the client is taken care of, whether it's the buyer or the seller, to make sure they have the best experience possible. And if they don't, we didn't do our job and don't deserve to make any money on that transaction.
Yeah. So I can definitely recommend you guys to anybody that's asking. So I think that's a good testimonial, because you work through those processes, and like I said, you're spending an awful lot of money, so there's a lot of emotions involved.
Absolutely.
So there has to be a steady hand at the wheel somewhere.
Yeah. So what we're going to be doing in this series is talking about land ownership, habitat improvements on the land, how to finance land, how to do 1031 exchanges into bigger properties, much like what Bill did in the past to build his southern Iowa farm that he built from 120 acres to up over, how big was it when he sold it?
They said 975, but I thought it was 1,000. Yeah, I always get shorted when they do taxable versus,
Well, it wasn't surveyed, so it probably was.
Yeah, but I sold 975 acres. I feel like I owned 1,000, so we'll leave it at that.
So we get questions all the time on the topic of everything land, how to buy it, how to sell it, how to own it, how to do projects on it, if they're big, how to stomach it, how to finance those projects, how to find contractors, and really think it'd be a valuable series for folks to be able to have those questions answered and see us doing some projects on personal properties that we've always dreamed of owning.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think there's a real need for this kind of information.
Absolutely.
You bring a side of it that has the perspective of the buying and selling, and maybe the hard numbers part. And you own land too. It's not like you're not out there, doing the same thing that people like me are doing. But yep. I'm going to really focus on how to develop properties for hunting. How to figure out what to buy, where to buy, and you're going to help us with how to buy, and then where some of those value parts are to the whole equation.
Yeah. I think it's important to have two guys that had to do it from nothing when they started, whether it was selling out of rental properties, how I kind of got into it, or buying land and starting with next to no money and acquiring that much land through that process instead of, maybe folks that were born with land or had family land or any of that kind of stuff. Neither of those situations were ours. Yeah. And I think that not that the other isn't a great way to expand or a good base to build on, but just to know that anybody could really do it.
Yeah, and I think to sum it up, if you love land and you love hunting, we're going to hopefully be able to create value for you through this series.
Absolutely. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, me too.
Well, we haven't come up with a name for the series yet, but come back and join us for the next episode, and we hope you learned something and take away something from it, and we're going to do our best job to make sure that you do.